right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached some great offensive linemen in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here for another episode of the Finish Line, joined once again by my co-host, the legendary Richmond Webb, the Triple OG, Mr. BallGame. And before we get into opening thoughts here, I just wanted to say, yesterday I told you guys that there was still interest on both sides, but with the Bills clearing space, the belief was they were making room for Poyer. What happened today? The other two things I committed to were Needham's gone and Sherfield's gone. And if people didn't see it, Sherfield tweeted out a goodbye Miami tweet and then deleted it. So I just want to say another time we go through this period of people putting out, trying to get ahead of these the gun, throwing SHIT at the wall, hoping it sticks. Now all these people have egg on their face. I keep telling y'all, stop listening to people that don't know what they're talking about. And now you see the clown show that is, man. I'm surprised these guys aren't pulling up on these Twitter streets and these YouTube streets in the little car and a bunch of the clowns get out and then it's nothing but a clown car. I'm surprised we haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm sure one of them will add that to their intro sooner or later. Anyways, let's get into this. Gentlemen, it started off, man, what a Sunday to be alive that was, huh? People were saying prayers after they left church, after we got Jalen Ramsey. You know, everyone was just, everyone was in the highest spirits. Now, one thing I warned everyone before we got into free agency was quantity over quality. That's a term I kept hearing. And now that the things are playing out, it's clearly a quantity over quality. But I still think they're getting quality with a lot of these moves at a lot of different right prices. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, how are you guys feeling now with 2 days done of the tampering window, the Ramsey trade over, and we'll get into the Ramsey trade as well, and now day one of free agency officially pretty much, well, it's going to go on all day, but it's pretty much starting to wind down here. So how are you guys feeling after now 3 days with these movements? We'll start with you, Richmond. How are you feeling?
I'm actually feeling good. Shout out to my man, Mr. BallGame. Birthday was yesterday, so he's a birthday boy. Y'all show him some love on Twitter. Blow his Twitter page up and wish him happy birthday. It was yesterday, but man, I'm feeling good. And you made some great points just a few minutes ago in your intro, and I think we talked about it last week, and we talked about it the week before. Is let the Dolphins do what they need to do. I mean, they're making the right moves. Just breathe a little bit. But when, like you said, you got to be careful who you listen to. I don't know who you're referring to. I really don't care.
Oh, there's a ton. They're on Twitter. They're at every platform you can find. Jeez.
Right. And so it really doesn't matter. But if it's not a reliable source or somebody that's pretty consistent, just be careful, who you put your ear to, and don't just react. Don't let them get your emotions all out of control and reacting on this roller coaster ride. So I'm definitely looking forward to some of those clown cars and stuff. I hadn't been to the circus in a while, and it'd be good to see some guys riding around in that. But I'm doing good. Man, nothing to complain about. I think the Ramsey thing, that just took me over the edge. I mean, I'm looking at, it took us back to when we had Jones X and you got Holland. You got a chance to turn a kid like that loose. I'm looking at 3 Pro Bowlers if everything go right. I mean, this defense is nasty. So I know Mr. Ballgame want to talk about that because that's his thing. But when you got 2 shutdown corners like that, I mean, it's just it could be real ridiculous. So I'm happy. I'm good. I'm gonna turn it over to the birthday boy, a birthday man, not boy. I'm sorry about that.
Bro, I'm
Mr.
rolling through the
Ballgame.
comments, ball game. All these keep flying up. I'm trying to keep up with them. Donation from Rhino said $2 says happy birthday, ball. But I'm just flying through them. Go ahead, ball game.
Hey guys, I'm good, man. Everything is to be honest with you, everything is as I expected it would be. I didn't think that with all of the moves they made last year and how we assembled this team, I didn't necessarily believe that. I appreciate all the birthday wishes, by the way. Before I get too deep in this, I didn't think that they would make a huge splash, but I did believe that they would go and look for key guys that they could bring in that would be 1, younger, 2, possess and show the ability to be able to be cross-trained to do different things and show to some degree a level of being able to take their current level of play to the next level with the proper coaching. And Fangio's a coach. And still at the end of the day, by all participants, he's still a coach, right? And he's a teacher. And he likes that aspect of the job, taking young guys that nobody knows and names that nobody's ever covered it and making them into something that nobody ever thought they could be. And I think across the board, he's done a good job of filling in his defense with those type of players. Now guys, Long just has to stay healthy for 17 games. Elliot had some issues up in Detroit early on in the season with not studying the playbook, but he got back. He got back on the field, and had a very successful tail end. He was benched earlier in the season, and like game 2 or game 3, but then came back in like week 5 and then balled out. You see what I'm saying? So. Yeah. I don't have an issue with that because I watched his projection. I watched him play a lot just because I had the Sunday pass and I liked the fact that Detroit was a scrappy team, so I got an opportunity to see a lot of them. So when I saw that Detroit didn't retain him, I was like, oh shit, I had him on my list, but I was like, they probably won't. You never know. But I didn't think I knew that Poyer was probably not going to be happening just because Buffalo was running out of guys. You know what I'm saying? And now they got to fill the holes of Edmund, all this thing. So it's like, okay, well,
that's the
Elliot.
thing, ball game. It wasn't just players, right? Like they lost Leslie Frazier. Like I said when I did my free agent target video, I said there's no way they're gonna let Edmonds and Poyer walk. And then yesterday they started clearing space, and right away I heard, well, they're clearing, and then remember they cleared a bunch of space, and then Diggs restructured at night or something like that. Like they cleared like 35 million. They cleared about 35 million.
35 million.
And someone tweeted out from the Buffalo media that they only have about 21 million left. So they signed someone else too, but for cheap money. So I think they gave Poyer around 12-ish million. When the numbers come out, Poyer's going to be at about 11 or 10 million. And I'm telling you right now, we weren't going above 7 or 8. It wasn't just going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. So,
So I'm extremely happy with Greer, especially in regards to most of your success in terms of the back end was built off of having 2 cornerstones at those outside boundary spots, and he went out and got arguably still today one of the best guys to do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And over the past at least the past 7 years, and Jones was solid, but the whole debacle with him and stuff, you got to find somebody, and they went out and got the man. They went out and got, Ramsey, brought him back home. That's a big signing that
we'll talk about the
opposite side.
We'll talk about Ramsey. We'll talk about Ramsey specifically when we get there. All right, This guy's over here jumping the gun over here, bro, because he's the birthday boy.
No. Huh? Well, I'm happy. I'm extremely pleased with where we are right now, and I told you guys before. I got faith in Greer to see. And it's necessary to keep this team as balanced as possible and make us deadly on both sides. So yeah, it's shaping up to be a really good offseason so far. So
Samuel says, thank God Reason didn't rant too long about how right he is about this and that. Do you know why? I don't need to anymore. You know why? Because the fact of the matter is I'm just tired of being right. All right.
He's taking a shot. Shots fired.
All right, I like.
No, don't get tired. Don't get tired of being right. No, you won't get tired of being wrong. Don't get tired of being right.
You know,
tell people over and over again.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
Like, what am I gonna do? Come up here every day and tell you how right I am? It's getting to that point. I don't even have to. If you listen, you know what's up. Keeping it going with all the happy birthdays to BallGame. Richmond Webb equals Hall of Fame. Let's get it done. Larry says, happy birthday, young man.
Young man.
Let me see if I can go through the rest of these just quickly because, hey, it's, all right. Looks like I kept up with the, oh, hold on. Found one. Looks like I kept up for the most part, though. But overall, happy birthday to the quadruple OG now.
Quadruple OGs. Next 5G. Next you're going to be 5G. 4G now. That's
yeah,
what
bro.
I'm
going to call you cellular service because you're going to be 5G next year.
5G. That's him.
All right. So let's get into what BallGame was about. And I'll let BallGame start off. When we go over here, let's talk about, because they haven't had the chance to give all of you their thoughts. I have, so I'll give them the floor here. But it was made official today, obviously, that Jalen Ramsey, right, is now coming to the Miami Dolphins. And even still, I want to show this. Check this one out. This is what's kind of crazy to me here. Because we have talked about it before, BallGame, and I've talked about how people have told me behind the scenes that, X and Byron wasn't really a happy marriage. Look at X already out there taking Jalen Ramsey around. It was announced today that this is what, obviously they could officially announce it. So we traded the fodder that was Hunter Long, how we got someone to accept that. My God, Chris Greer needs a statue built for himself just off that. And a 3rd round pick for arguably, top 3, top 2 core. He is now CB1 in Miami. BallGame Richmond, start with you, BallGame. Your thoughts on the biggest addition who's restructured and being team friendly right out the gate. And in fact, is at the Heat game right now. What are your guys' thoughts on Jalen Ramsey?
The craziest thing for me, man, is like I heard some of the larger network analysts talk about, oh, he's not the player he used to be and all these things. And the only thing that changed about Ramsey was the fact that because he didn't have there wasn't really no stability in the defensive play calling. And early on when they started sustaining them injuries after the Super Bowl run, they kind of knew that they wasn't the team that was going to be able to be as aggressively competitive as they needed to be. So he gave up maybe 1.5 yards more in completions than he did the year previous. But he still had 4 picks, which was tied for the lead in the league, had 20 pass breakups, and people rarely ever threw at him. So I didn't understand that. But in the same sense, I did know that if we could secure someone's services for the outside boundary position on this team for Fangio's defense, we wouldn't necessarily need to go elite at the safety spot. And that's what we see. We saw them go out and grab a quality, young 25-year-old guy, right, that can be paired up with Javon Hollins in the back, because now you have 2 of arguably the best still in the game, corners, boundary corners on the team with X and Jalen. And I just think, like, people really don't fathom in how huge this is going to be in terms of all of the intricacies that Fangio can actually throw at it. You got 2 guys that can completely isolate, with Jalen taking the number 1, which is what Byron did, and X flourished in that because he didn't have to worry about what was going on over on the other side. He was able to play free, able to play confident, and freelance to do his own thing. And I think to some degree, Fangio, if I remember correctly, Fangio is still the type of coach that he wants discipline within the defense, but for his veterans, he allows them to play free. He allows them to be the best versions of themselves, as long as they don't leave the guy behind them on an island. You know what I'm saying? Or just leave it. Leave the rest of the defense screwed up because you're over there doing too much on your own. And I think both of these guys are built somewhat from the same mold. and that's going to be huge because now you got to pick your poison. Which side? Which outside? Which outside wide receiver you really want to throw to? If you really truly want to test the secondary, you got Holland up on the perch at some point. Probably wind up being Elliot at some point up on the perch. And now this gives them flexibility now to bring Brandon Jones back. And they can play nickel too. You know what I'm saying? You can go 4-2-5, but you can have Jones in there at the slot corner, in the walk down spot to help with the run and be able to take on some of the bigger packages that teams, you know what I'm saying? So it could be the base package for them too. And I just think that flexibility now with Jalen being able to be a part of that frees Holland up now. So now Javon Holland now gets to go back to being you know what I'm saying, the player that he was touted to be because he doesn't have to worry about going over and doing double coverage now over the outside boundary spots like he had to do so much last year with on and down and the younger corners being out there. This is huge, man. Especially when you just brought in, like I said, a new DC, right? And the great part is Ramsey already knows. He already knows the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To some degree, he already knows what's being asked of him, so it's not like you got to start from scratch. You don't have to fix a whole lot of things with him, the terminology maybe, and then equate that to what's being called now and get it going. In defense,
honestly, bro, I'm going to tell you, I think Brandon Jones is becoming a sub package guy now. I think they're going to rotate creepers between Holland and DeShon because you saw how much they used. Like, look at DeShon Elliott. The guy plays in the box, in the slot, or he can play on the perch, like you said. Like, but a lot of it, a ton of box. I think now they've designed it where you don't know who's creeping up on you. You don't know who's moving in the. This is helping his disguise. That's like you don't know now, right? Like with Brandon Jones, you know. Right, right? That's why he's going to become a package guy because you're just going to put him in obvious box situations and use him in that. But DeShon and Holland, you don't know which one's moving up. Those guys can give you totally different looks. They give you 3 different looks before you snap the ball. Right? Pre-snap, at the snap, and after the snap. They could literally try and give you 3 different looks because they give you so much flexibility when you see how those 2 guys play. Anyways, that's how man. Ramsey, and you made a good point because I didn't even make this point, bro. I didn't even make this point. I didn't even think about him and being in Staley, right? I didn't even think about Ramsey. So,
scheme familiarity. Yep.
Well, I should say the remnants of Staley being there, right? Because that's the defense they've been running since Staley was there and since he left, right? Yeah. So, man. Yeah, and you're right. Just terminology. It's going to be an easy fix. And before we get to Richmond, BallGame, talk about this. Also, you're an FSU fan. As he gets into his 30s, you can transition to his own safety, man. No, you can transition to safety. Can't you?
You can because that's what he was prior to him switching the corner at FSU. He was a safety.
And he still has all the ability.
They recruited him. They recruited him to FSU as a safety, and because of injuries, he went to go play corner. He just never moved back, but he was lights out at safety in high school, and he still retained a lot of that, especially when you look at some of the stuff that the Rams did where they actually did their invert coverages, and he was playing backside or wide side field, deep half safety. You feel me? In the coverage invert stuff, and he flourishes at it still because he's just naturally a safety playing corner. So,
BallGame, can I tell you what I love about this? We know X is going to come off the books and get no money either next year if they ball out in not next season, but the season after. But if they want to make moves, it'll be next season. They'll probably come off of him. Dude, they've already gone out and got the cornerback one. He's younger. And then now they've set themselves up where the draft picks come next year. You could move off X this offseason and use your first round pick and go get a corner and put him opposite of Jalen Ramsey and start grooming the next guy. This is how good teams operate. Russell says, happy birthday. Quantity over quality doesn't sound like a win now mentality, but it does. See, when I first told you guys that term, I said, don't look at it as they're just looking for a bunch of jabronis. They have gone with a quantity over quality approach. And I even said at the beginning, they've gotten quality players in the quantity. We're DeShon Elliott, David Long. We can just start there. And you know what I mean? So, and John Forte said, that's why I have the best channel to tell how it is, my brother.
I think people get too wrapped up in the names, man, as opposed to the gameplay itself.
The
If you
contributors.
go back, you know what I'm saying? If they take the times and go back and look at not just the highlights, but look at some of the games that Elliot played and some of the games that Long played, you'll see that these guys are high level they had high level production and productivity, and that's what you want, right? You want guys that you can say, listen, this is what I need you to do, and they give you a little more than what you asked of them. Then they've hit the wicket, and you still got the money's worth, right? And that's what it comes down to. Everybody's not going to be a big name, and that, when you go out here name chasing in football, you wind up setting yourself up for failure because you can have a whole bunch of high level names, but they never really gel together. Most of these guys, the guys that they brought in particular, are all guys that are team first guys, and they're willing to do whatever's asked of them to ensure that the team's successful.
Get a championship. They're trying to get a championship. Yeah. Let's hear your thoughts before we move on here, Richmond. What are your thoughts on Ramsey? Because I'm sure you've been in the locker room when a superstar's come into the room. How do you see this? What's your stance on this?
I mean, I think it's a win-win. Like you say, they made a decision on Jones, but when you can replace Jones with a guy like Ramsey, a guy that just previously won a Super Bowl, and I think the Rams were in a situation to where, last year they didn't have the season they did, but they had injuries. I mean, the quarterback got hurt, so they had to shuffle through that, this and that. But he's still one of the top corners, I think, in the league right now. So you get a guy like that that's happy to come here. That's like BallGame said, he's home, so he's back in Florida, family, this and that. A lot of people can come see him play, this and that. And at the same time, it's not a secret that he knows about Fangio and the things he's done with his defense and stuff like that. And then say, I can come in and I can play opposite corner with X, and I'm sure he knows about Holland because you study the guys that play your position and say, hey, this is a cakewalk, man. We can make some things happen. And then even in his comments, I thought it was kind of funny, but he was just being true. But he said, I look forward to practicing against Tyreek Hill versus having to worry to play against him. So, that's respect. But, like we brought in Tyreek Hill, we see the impact he made being a leader on the offense, winning a Super Bowl, this and that. Now you're transitioning. You're doing the same thing with guys of that caliber and guys that are happy to be here. I think that's one of the things that, sticking out to me. And like you said, a lot of people say he's lost a step, this and that. I guarantee you, if you ask some of the opposing teams in the AFC East, some of the quarterbacks are going to have to throw against him and X, the offensive coordinators that not only got to deal with Fangio, but deal with two shutdown corners and stuff like that. This is definitely some concern, and not just from. So don't get caught on what the analysts say. Look, I guarantee if you ask New England, the Jets, people in our division, that they're going to have some concerns. But I think it was a great move. I think it was definitely quality. So I was really happy when I saw that, because that just showed up, and I saw what even before Fangio got here, what you could do with two shutdown corners, and to have that again, it's just, man, it just frees up so many things. So I'm definitely excited about it.
You're muted, bro.
We can't hear you, bro.
David Long Brandon says David Long is a steal in this free agency class. When healthy, he will be a perfect guy for the Fangio defense. Russell says, come out of retirement and play right tackle, please, Richmond.
I thought y'all wanted to win next year, man. Y'all. Oh, man.
All right, before we just the last thing to touch on this Ramsey thing, and it's really just the last part here we're going to focus on here. Listen to what Cam Wolf sits here and says really towards the end. All right, so check this one out.
Yeah, Andrew, Jalen Ramsey actually just got to the Dolphins facility. I talked with his cornerback duo partner, Xavien Howard, this afternoon. He said he's actually going up to the facility right now to show Ramsey around, and he's excited about the opportunity to be there with another number one corner. And he said with the move today with Aaron Rodgers headed to the Jets, they can't wait to show what that duo can do.
Woo!
And what's a loaded AFC
coming
East
for you,
now.
A-Rod.
But you mentioned what's ahead for Miami.
A-Rod.
They just made a move a few minutes ago to agree to terms with safety DeShon Elliott. Another move to try to get that defense more rangy, faster, and more versatile. That's been a priority for Vic Fangio and this crew this offseason with the Ramsey move, with the move for linebacker David Long, who should be a value signing if he stays healthy, and now Elliott. But going forward, they want to spend a little bit of time on the offensive line. They've got 3 spots figured out in left tackle Teron Armstead, center Connor Williams, and right guard Robert Hunt. But they have 2 young players in left guard, Ian Eichenberg, and right tackle Austin Jackson that they would love to win those spots, but due to injuries and uncertainty, it's still a question mark at this point. And so look for them to be on the free agency market to find 1 or 2 guys to compete with them in that spot. But just briefly going back to Ramsey, I talked with him a few minutes after his trade.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about this real quick. So, I've been saying it and I'll keep saying it. It feels like Greer is just, they're trying to force this to make this work. They just can't let go of the capital they spent on those guys. Now he does say they're going to pivot, but you got to listen to the wording. He says they're going to bring in someone to compete. And what have I said all along? I think they're going to bring in like a second tier type of guy here. And it started off, well, one of the first moves they made today was I don't know if you guys saw it, but they brought back Kendall Lamb. So they brought back Kendall Lamb today, obviously a depth guy, nothing really much more than that. Your guys' thoughts on what they said right there? Because, I found it interesting that look at how much a guy like, okay, we saw how much Jawan Taylor and McGlinchey went. But then you look at Caleb McGarry just going for over $11 million, and you're talking about like an elite run blocker and above average pass blocker, kind of perfect for this offense, really what they want to do. And $11 million compared to the other guys on the market is a bargain. You saw what Trey Pipkin signed for yesterday, like about $7 million a year. Not very much. And then now, right, like what's out there? The best probably options are probably restricted free agents, Terrence Steele and Josh Nijman. Those are probably your best, or bringing back like Brandon Shell, because even Riley Reef went somewhere today. What are your guys' thoughts on how this offensive line is? Because let's be honest here, gentlemen, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And we're getting into that territory with these guys. Like my stance is, and we'll start with you, Richmond. My stance is, if any of these guys are going to hit, put them in a competition at left guard with Lester Cotton and Robert Jones. May the best man win, but shore up that right tackle. Because you know what? You're only as strong as your weakest link. I think we can cope with 1 weak link on the line inside of Connor Williams and Teron Armstead, but 2 weak links, you start playing with fire a little bit here. So what are your overall thoughts? Because Richmond, square peg in a round hole. That's what just keeps popping up into my head here. Where are you at on this?
Well, I think the thing that I do like is they want it to work out, but I think they're realizing that you got to have some type of insurance or whatever in the event that it doesn't. And I think you could still see how it impacted the offense at times when you didn't have a right tackle and a left guard. And you need guys that's going to be able to play consistently. And, I know Austin Jackson was out for a majority of the season. I know he got hurt and injuries as part of the game, this and that. But this will be his, 4th year? Is this Austin's 4th year coming up? I think it's maybe his 4th year coming up. And so when he played last year, he actually looked pretty good, but it's just, you got to have somebody that's consistently there. And if he can't play, you got to have somebody in there. So I think the thing is they would love to see those guys work out. But at the same time, with what they're building and what they see right now, they're going to have some kind of insurance plan to say, yeah, you might be penciled in as a starter right now, but we're going to bring in guys that can compete. That if you can't handle the pressure, you won't be here. We're going to let the best man win. And I think that's what you got to do. You got to continue to bring in guys that's going to help shore up, like you said, the weakest link, this and that. You might be able to get away with 1, but 2 is a lot, especially on the offensive line. You can kind of hide that guy sometime, but that's the way I'm looking at it. I think they are going to bring in some guys to help shore it up, and then have those guys looking over their shoulder and say, man, I I got to make this work because if not, I could be looking for a job somewhere else. And you can't shy away from competition. You gotta meet it head on and show that, hey, y'all brought me here. Y'all giving me a chance. Now it's time for me to step up and meet the challenge.
Two of the way says Wolf said on the Big O show that we're looking at right tackle for a reasonable price. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Trey Pipkins was a reasonable price yesterday. 3 years, $7.5 million per. Trey Pipkins was a very reasonable price. McGarry, for what he was compared to the other guys, very reasonable price at $11 million. So what I think they're doing is, again, it's lower mid second tier guy at best who, listen, Brandon Shell was okay, but BallGame broke down the film with me and Martin last year. Shell's a guy you want playing 2 or 3 games, maybe 4. You don't want him as a full-time starter because the wheels started falling off a little bit at times with Shell last year if you watched the All-22. Okay, so listen, there are things I don't play around with. We're already being bargain bin shoppers at the running back position. You do not bargain bin shop with bookend tackles, especially when one's a blind side. I'm not a believer in that. And I've never, before we drafted Tua, BallGame was on the Tuesday night panel. And I used to say all the time, BallGame, what did I say? I don't care if you're drafting Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Jordan Love. Give me a wall
tackles
that they got in Oakland at the time or Indianapolis at the time in 2019. Build that, because you know what? If we draft, what did I say, BallGame? If we draft one of these kids,
no matter who the quarterback is.
Yep. If we draft one of these kids and don't work out, you just get the next guy, plop him behind him, and you're good to go. Just keep it running. And I can't deal with this bargain. This gets on. Okay, listen. I'm a fan of free agency so far. There's only 2 moves I don't agree with. I don't see the use of bringing Gaskin back. He looks like nothing more than a camp body now because you gave Ahmed $1.8 million and you gave him the touches at the end of last year. And I don't get bringing him back when this draft is so deep at the position 1. And 2, not a fan of the neglecting of the offensive line. I expected them to spend heavily on the defense, but if you're going to neglect running back, and we spent $4.8 million between Wilson and Mostert. Okay? You can't bargain bin shop at all these different positions and expect your offense to be top 10. You just can't. So if you're going to bargain bin at running back, make sure you get that offensive line right. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Just like if you're going to bargain bin on the offensive line, go get a stud running back who can make some of those weak links not matter. Right? You got to balance it out. Anyways, I don't know. That's my rant on the offensive line, and those are the only 2 things I haven't liked so far. What I mean, am I a lunatic, gentlemen? Am I irrational?
I think
am I irrational?
Very reasonable points.
No,
I think those are very reasonable points you made. I just think the fact that I believe they didn't make the right choices in the coachings, because when they went out and got dude from Denver, that told me that they wanted somebody that really knew the intricacies of this wide zone that they're trying to run, and maybe he's the difference maker right now. No coach can do anything about a player getting hurt, and I think that's unfortunate it's unfortunate for Austin and for Liam that they sustained the injuries at the times that they did, and then when they came back, they just looked like shells of themselves. But that's just the nature of the game itself. I wasn't convinced that they was looking to. I mean, you've got one of the top left tackles in the game. Most people can argue, and probably I think Robert Hunt's top 5 when he's on his game at right guard, and you've got Connor Williams who played his ass off at center out of position still. So nobody wants 2 spots, left guard and right tackle, that aren't manned by somebody overly confident and overly blessed in the ability to be able to play at a top level. But the draft status of those 2 guys is what's pushing this thing. And when you have other individuals from other organizations mentioning those players, that's going to push the Dolphins, I think, to try to get all they can out of them before they have to walk away from them. And I think that's the biggest thing that they're facing now. They don't want to move off of these guys and say, you know what, damn, and then they go somewhere else and completely blow up. You know what I mean? And hit their stride. Well, Austin, this is the 4th year, and I think hopefully, maybe he's grown into the body now at this point, man body, and he'll show us the type of jump that Christian had. No, maybe not as big as what Christian Wilkins had, but to some degree, something to say, you know what? Okay, that's what we drafted. You see what I'm saying? And he was close. I mean, he was above decent before he got injured, right? And then after he came back, like I said, he was a shell of himself. If you bring someone in to really put some heat on their asses, I think that might be the other piece that truly pushes these guys to push through some things and gather that's going to be given to them by the coach and put it on the field and have it be successful for them. So I didn't expect this to be overly flashy. You know what I mean? Because you had the number 2 for people. We had one of the top offenses in the league. So it's minor tweaks, really, right?
Yeah.
But I do agree that if you have the resources to go out and fill in one of those spots and not have it be an issue, just do it and be done with it and let the other guys fight for the other position. You know what I mean? And the best man wins. I'm okay with that as well. So if it's not Austin, if it's not Liam that gets it, then it is what it is. But show up what you need to show up, because offensive line, you know what I mean, it's the heart and soul of the offense. So.
Yeah. Man, depressing. All right, so no, I don't get the areas where I get bargain bin shopping at running back. I just don't get it with the offensive line. I've never understood. I mean, you look at what Philadelphia's done and for how long they put an offensive line out there. It didn't matter whether it's McNabb, Wentz, Vic, or Hurts. They've always, look at the Dallas Cowboys continuously to spend resources on the offensive line. It didn't matter whether it was Romo or Dak, or even going back to Aikman. They've always tried to put out good offensive lines. You look at the Ravens, right? Look at the offensive lines they've given Lamar Jack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where I'm going here. Notice how, it's just. Anyways, so I think a name to watch is probably going to be Matt Feiler, who got released from the Steelers because he has a tie to what's his face, Frank Smith, I believe it is. Frank Smith's a big fan of him. So, and he can play right tackle or guard. So that might be who they're potentially working on. What were you going to say, Richmond? Sorry.
I don't forgot. You good, bro. It wasn't nothing major. You good. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into obviously the big signing of the day. The big signing of the day was DeShon Elliott, obviously, and we'll talk about this quickly here.
Love it.
I think this is a versatile defender who, we spoke about. He can, I mean, you don't know who's coming up into the box, and when they run those 2 high shells now. Loves contact. We got a thumper, ladies and gentlemen. We got a guy who loves to lay the lumber.
6'1", 205.
Yeah. He hasn't allowed a touchdown pass in his coverage area for 2 seasons, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
And I'm a big fan. He's a great tackler. He's effective against the run when he moves up in the box too. So, I think this is, I look at David Long and I look at this signing. These are 2 guys that have real high potential to outplay their contracts big time. That's when I look at these 2 guys. They, you heard Cameron Wolf use the word value deal. This is what we're talking about. Like, I look at David Long and let's just put it at $5.5 million, even though the numbers aren't, like, when you break down the contract, it's not as cut and dry, but let's put it at $5.5 million. David Long has the potential to play at like a $10 million to $12 million linebacker level. Like, we're talking like Pro Bowl level. And I think the same can be said for DeShon Elliott a little here. You got a guy who can play at a really high level. So what are your thoughts? Just again, ball game quickly on DeShon Elliott, because, a lot of people in this fan base, ball game, remember, they've been big name hunting for a running back, right? And hey, I'm going to show you this ball game. I'm going to give you a little ammo before you. I'm going to set you up. I mean, go look at that man, DeShon Elliott. Watch him right here when he was with the Ravens. Watch him against Derrick Henry right here. Look how quickly he gets the head. Boom! Just stands him up, knocks the ball. Have you seen a man handle Derrick Henry like that? Woo! So, what are your thoughts, BallGame?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that stood out to me when I watched film on when I was watching Elliot last year was his willingness to engage in any area of the field that was a part of his coverage and a part of his responsibility of ensuring that nobody got loose. He didn't have a problem. He was taking on blockers. He was going up in there catching blitzing. The guy was all over the place. I think a lot of what happened to him early on was just the fact that there was just miscommunication between him and the coaches, and it was frustrating because I think he said that he was being sent mixed signals. So it didn't play out for him the way it was supposed to play out on the field, and they lost confidence in him. But then a couple of injuries happened. He got back in there, and he never lost the job again. And that to me stands out because I know I can rely on him. He's a guy that the coach can say, "Hey, this is what it is. This is what we're trying to accomplish here. All right, coach, how do you want me to do it? Or you just want me to figure it out?" He's smart enough. He's intelligent. You know what I'm saying? And his range is amazing. 4.58 guy, right? He ran a little slow. But he's fast.
He's faster on
the
bro.
field.
Yeah, his play speed's higher. Yeah,
way faster. Play speed way higher. So pairing him with the Holland man is going to be a beautiful thing. And at 6'1", 205, he'll be a true strong safety in this game with the ability to play up on the perch when they were to take, you know what I'm saying, and not lose anything in terms of coverage and deep coverage, playmaking and pass coverage ability. So I like it. I like it across the board. I didn't think that the Detroit the Lions were going to let him out of there, but they had a lot of young guys in the secondary that they had. So when I was looking over it, I was like, if they did let him go, I wouldn't be upset with it. And now it happened, man. So it's kind of crazy how that all worked out. But I have my own list of guys that I really liked and for different reasons, and Elliot is definitely one of them. And I think he's going to be a solid contributor. He brings a little bit more of what you would want a prototypical strong safety to be than Brandon Jones. But, Brandon Jones still got a special place in my heart because he's willing to do so many different things for you. But, in terms of what Fangio is going to require out of his safeties in this defense, Elliot can do that and some, and that's huge for us because at this point now, you don't have to chase a name like Poyer. You got your guy that can allow your safeties to be the best version of themselves when you put Ramsey in. So now these guys get to play free. They get to play fast. They get to play, to and for each other. And, that's going to be amazing for this back end. I think we're going to see a lot of good things from this group. So.
Agreed. Let's get your thoughts, Richmond. Also, Phil Jones says, Richmond, reach out to Dougley and ask him about a gift I just sent him. I got the item in 1997 when you and I, Coach John Strong, fished on a boat in the annual fishing tournament. Sent him a picture of us with the gift.
Okay. I'll do that. Thank you. I saw the signing. I watched Detroit's defense, but not so much the individual players like BallGame. Defense is his thing. But what I do remember about Detroit watching them last year is kind of the first half of the season. They would lose games, but they were always within a touchdown or whatever in the game. And then when they finally got it together the second half of the season, they missed the playoffs by like one game. So, and I remember they really got after Aaron Rodgers. I think that was the last regular season game. I mean, high energy playing this and that coming up. And when I heard great tackler, I think that's one of the things that I was physical and a great tackler, because I know at times in our secondary, we try to see them make tackles and they wasn't very efficient at it. So when you got, like a guy like him and Holland back there, they're going to bring the heat. And then when you have a guy like that, it's almost like having another linebacker on the field, when he's a great tackle, physical and stuff like that. And I was thinking when BallGame was saying, I think him and Jones went to Texas, so they probably were teammates in college. So they got some familiarity. You can tell him, how he likes it, this and that. But I thought it was a great, when I started hearing all the positives and stuff like that, I thought it was a great addition. So, I think it was a huge signing. So, yeah, I like it.
Well, you know what's crazy? Think about this one for a sec, guys. We've got 2 college safety tandems in our backfield right now, if you actually think about it. Bro McKinley and Holland played together at Oregon. They were that safety tandem in Holland's last year. And now you got DeShon Elliott and Brandon Jones were a safety tandem in Texas. So, that's kind of crazy when you actually, think about that. I don't know when the last time I could see that. Mark Vera says, you guys think Greer is waiting for Orlando Brown Jr. to come back to earth? Brother, that man wants left tackle money. Okay, we would need you would need to clear cap and give him basically the most of it, or structure it so he has a low hit this year. And then, but I don't know about Orlando Brown, man. He apparently is very, very against moving back to right tackle. So, guys, we got over 700. Yeah, we got over 710 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you knew. I appreciate y'all. We had over 800 yesterday, and we had over 1,030 the day before live. So y'all guys have been showing up. I appreciate everyone for coming through. All right, so just a couple quick notes here before we talk about a new addition. So obviously the team, they took care of a few of their own. I talked about this earlier. I don't really need to go over it too much. They re-signed Myles Gaskin, 1-year deal, and you look at the Wilson deal and you look at the Mostert deal and you look at Ahmed being brought back for 1 year, they could be off all these running backs next offseason again, if they really want to, the way they've structured Mostert and Wilson, and now Gaskin and Ahmed only agreeing to come back to obviously 1-year deals. And then another familiar face came back. People might have remembered him last year. We claimed Freddie Swain off waivers from Denver. Remember, he was part of the practice squad last year. Kick returner. Yeah, he played 5 snaps for Denver when he went for them. So there you go. Just a couple of depth pieces, special teams additions. But the one people probably want to hear our thoughts on the latest new addition to the offense really is, guys, we added to the tight end room again, 1-year deal. And we've added Eric Saubert, a guy who, he's kind of like Durham Smythe. He can contribute in the pass game, and he's a steady, reliable blocker. He's a good pass blocker, and he's a reliable run blocker. You know what I mean? He's an upgrade over Hunter Long. I don't know what else to say to that. He's better than Tanner Connor. And like the Gaskin, I do not think this sways the Dolphins, gentlemen, from going tight end in the draft. If Darnell Washington's in range, if Sam Laporta's in range at 51, I still think they're in play. If they got a high, whether they take Zach Kuntz with the pick in the 50s or the pick in the 80s or a Tucker Kraft, I think those guys are still in play. This is only a 1-year deal. It's a guy who can contribute like Smythe. Smythe only has 1 year left on his contract as well. And we know Tanner Connor's a development guy, so I don't think this sways them from taking a tight end on the draft. But your guys' overall thoughts on Eric Saubert? I like this signing. It's a depth signing. Listen, is it Foster Moreau who I wanted? No. But this is what they're looking for in a tight end, a guy who can contribute in the pass game, but a guy who's a reliable pass blocker and run blocker when he's tasked with it. Your guys' thoughts on the Eric Saubert signing? We'll start with you, Richmond Webb.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing. I think when you look at the weapons you have at the wide receiver position, you don't have to necessarily have a tight end that's going to go in third down situations or third long situations, do that. Mm-hmm. If he's efficient in running routes and catching passes, this and that, he can do that. And then at the same time, you get somebody that's reliable in the run game. Like you said, if you got Smythe and you got Saubert, there's 2 guys right there that you can interchange in and out versus saying, okay, when Smythe is in the game, he's more of a passing, they're going to throw the ball to him. So the tendencies show that when he's in the game, they're going to throw the football more. And then when Saubert's in the game, they're going to run the ball. When you got 2 guys that can kind of equally do both well or pretty good, that's one less thing you're not tipping your hand and giving away. So I like that. And like I said, with the receivers we have in the room, You don't have to have a superstar at tight end, but you can still eat in the passing game at tight end. And I think that's what they're looking at. And normally the team carries about 3 tight ends. One might be like a deep snapper, but you need guys to play special teams as well. So long as he can play special teams, this and that, it just makes total sense. And I agree with you, Reason. We still have an opportunity to add a tight end not free agency, but the draft as well. And I'm sure they're looking at that to develop another young guy. So yeah,
and
it's
Richmond, I mean, you've played with them. That's one of the slower developing positions too. So you got to get a couple reliable guys, even if you're going to draft a tight end high, because tight ends usually take till year 2, year 3, till you start seeing, like Kyle Pitts was a top 10 pick for a reason, right? But then you saw a little regression this year, but because of the quarterback play. But you get, we talk about guys, we talk about all this time, whether it's corners, offensive linemen. Tight end is one of those slow, usually historically one of those slower developing positions. So they've set themselves up to draft a tight end. So, I listen, you made a lot of good points there, Richmond. What are your thoughts, BallGame?
I think overall, when you factor in what they may possibly want from the tight end position, going out and getting a guy like Saubert and coupling him with a guy like Smythe puts them back into the traditional role of what a tight end actually is. The tight end to me has always been, even on my days of football, the quarterback's best friend. The quarterback's first check down as opposed to the running back. And when you got two, like what Richard said, you got wide receivers that are explosive as our guys are, they're going to garner most, if not all, of the coverage concerns. So the tight ends just need to be chain movers. And in the same sense, if you want to run the ball for 4 yards, have guys out there that can latch on, and assist in the blocking aspects with the offensive line, and you don't lose any of what Fangio also has, which is disguising it, right? So if you got guys out there that can do both equally and are balanced across the board, that gives the offense more flexibility. Now that gives Mike an opportunity to open up the playbook even more and not show his hand in regards to whether it's run, pass, or play action. You see what I'm saying? And I do believe, like you said, they will be still targeting another tight end in the draft. I think it just makes sense. But overall, I don't hate the signing because Saubert's a true tight end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Size wise, you know what I'm saying? Decent. I'd say above decent hands. Dedicates himself to being a good blocker. You know what I mean? The dirty work, and that's what you need in this, because I think we're going to run the ball a lot more this year, or we're going to attempt to run the ball more this year. And that starts up front with all 7. If they got 2 tight ends in, that's all 7 of those guys are responsible for that. So I like it. No shade on, no shade on Mike, but at the same time, that's not something that was ever going to be a part of his repertoire. And you show your hand when you got a guy that without a shadow of a doubt is only a pass catcher, as opposed to, you want a guy that fit. These guys fit more. People laugh about this when I say this, but he's not as explosive after the catch. But Smythe has the same characteristics as a Kittle in terms of his desire to block, his desire to be in there and doing the dirty work, and he gets open. Even though the ball never really goes his way, because he's still open. Durham Smythe knows how to get open in the, in the intermediate areas of the coverage, and that's really all you need, man. So
Phil Jones donated $10. He said they signed running backs from last year. They already know the offense. That means a high running back draft choice can get all of the running backs coaches' attention. Then they cut Gaskin and Ockman. I'll do you one better, Phil. Look at the money they've spent. And look at the money they have coming off the book off June 1st. They've set themselves in the position where if the Vikings eventually, before the trade deadline, want to say, okay, we're parting with Dalvin Cook, this just doesn't make sense anymore, they can literally revisit him and add Dalvin Cook because they haven't overly spent. Like, they didn't even go out. Look at Jamal Williams got what, $4 million a year from the Saints? I just saw James Robinson just signed 2 years with the Patriots for it's up to $8 million over the so $4 million a year. They weren't even willing to go to these guys because when you break down the actual numbers of Wilson and Mostert, the way they have it structured, they ain't paying these guys really that much at all. So
nothing.
Yeah. You're getting both of them for under $5 million. So they've structured it where if the Vikings want to move off Cook because I know Cook's willing to play ball with his contract structure. So I know that for a fact. Dalvin Cook's willing to come here and play ball with that. So that's why they'll sit back and they'll say, listen, if the Vikings, let's say the Vikings have a bad start to the season and they end up saying, okay, we're going all in for the draft pick. The Vikings even brought Madison back for pretty cheap earlier, just like an hour ago. So we'll see how that all plays out. I wanted to show this too because we were talking about him a little earlier with Austin Jackson. Something to give everyone
home, man. Let him come on home.
Yeah, for sure. Something to give everyone a little hope for a guy like Austin Jackson, though. Because I don't know if people saw this. Shout out to Giovanni. He's one of those dudes who always, he goes to training camp. He sent me footage before. Giovanni's a real good dude. So shout out to Giovanni. He actually hit up Duke Mayweather in a thread and said, has Austin Jackson joined the squad yet? And Duke Mayweather said, soon. Why does this matter? Duke Mayweather is considered the best offensive line mind, not in the NFL right now. Armstead's one of his big guys, one of his big clients. Duke Mayweather is literally, his program's called OL Mastermind, okay? And he's out actually in Texas. I'm sure Richmond knows all about Duke. Duke's considered one of the best offensive line coaches and minds in football right now, especially that he is the best that's not in the NFL. And so that could be another reason why they're bringing in exactly. And they're probably going to see if Duke can get him right, start getting him right this offseason, right? Because he's going, Armstead is taking him under his wing and going to take him down there with it. So that could be in play here too. That's another factor people need to look at. So when they talk about bringing in competition and not going full out on Austin Jackson, Duke Mayweather could be a reason why. So just, food for thought, ladies and gentlemen, food for thought. Go ahead, BallGame. Sorry.
Sometimes it ain't about what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly, right?
Everybody can add to that. Austin's slate is clean. Austin's slate is clean enough that he doesn't have a ton of things that necessarily need to be overweak. And the right person in the right hands, man, I think they can mold him into being exactly what he needs to be. I do believe that's the reason the coach was brought in. I do believe that Armstead coming in and galvanizing himself and pulling them in also is going to help him immensely. Hell, even Liam. These guys get down there and just learn how to officially maximize those bodies of theirs. Duke's the guy to get them. Duke's the guy definitely to get that done for them. And then they show up, man, and they show up and show out in the spring, bro. That's gonna be a beautiful thing, It sucks that we waited this long to get to this point, but it is what it is. Progression of players, man.
Let's before we get out of here, guys, I do want to get your thoughts on this because this is obviously the talk of the town. Your guys' thoughts on Aaron Rodgers to the Jets? My thoughts have been this. Listen, I think they're a very talented team. I think they got a lot of talented weapons. Brees Hall will be back. I've made a bold prediction. I think we're going to win the division. I think Jets are going to finish second and get a wild card spot. You heard me correct. I think the Bills are going to fall off and potentially miss the playoffs. All right. Like I made that bold prediction. All right. What are your guys' overall thoughts on Aaron Rodgers coming to the AFC East? I still think the AFC East is ours, but I think, they're going to give the Bills a real run for their money for that 2 spot. What are your guys' overall thoughts on Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, he's a great quarterback, but it don't matter to me. I'm riding with the Dolphins. The Jets got to figure that out. I think he definitely can improve it, this and that. But also, I look at what we got here in South Florida, the offensive side, the defensive side, this and that. So even though he's a great quarterback, I think it might be some great matchup games, but I still see us, coming out on top on that. So it doesn't put fear in my heart that he's coming to the AFC East. Well, that doesn't. I'm good. It don't move my needle enough, so I'm good. So we're gonna be good.
BallGame, what are your thoughts? I mean, Ramsey, he's never allowed a touchdown. Also, doesn't have an interception against Rodgers. Kader Kohu got his first career interception against him, and actually got, Rodgers to autograph it, and Rodgers wrote "Merry Christmas" on it, right, in the Christmas game. And then, Howard's the only one that's allowed a touchdown. He allowed a touchdown to Devontae Adams in 2018, but really he only has one passing touchdown against all three of these guys. What are your thoughts on them again, on Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets?
No disrespect to any player currently playing in the NFL, but fuck Aaron Rodgers, man. Nobody worry about him. I think across the board, bro, when you take into consideration who we brought in to lead this defense, Aaron Rodgers, Father Time is undefeated, bro. Like Tom Brady defied him as long as he could, but at the end of the day, man, skills and things of that nature start to regress when you hit a certain plateau, when you hit a certain point in the NFL, and Rodgers falling off, in my opinion. The Jets are scrambling around trying to figure this thing out because they made bad decisions, in drafting quarterbacks. But at the end of the day,
you see that Lazard money ball game?
Yeah,
Did you see the
crazy,
money they
bro.
get? Oh my god,
that's crazy.
$11 million a year.
Yeah, they lost.
When you got Elijah Moore, you got Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. What are you saying, bro?
And Garrett Wilson, yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
And Corey Davis.
Yeah. And Breece Hall in the backfield.
In the backfield, yeah. They completely a shit show, in my opinion. But I'm with Richard, man. I don't give two shits about nobody else in this division. It's our division to win now at this point. I think we've made changes on the coaching side and on the offensive defensive side of the ball enough to make it pretty much known that if you look at it we're the team to beat. Now they just got to go out and execute. And I think across the board, when you factor in the fact that Mike was kind of limited on what he could do playbook wise, and he has an opportunity now to open up a little bit more. The foundation is set. So now the extra wrinkles and the things of that nature that he's going to add to this playbook in year two with Tua, I think is going to be the defining difference. Teams already had a problem stopping us, and even when they did slow us down a bit, they didn't stop us completely. Now at this point, with him being able to dive into the next phase of the playbook and his installs, I think we're the team to beat, bro. Like real talk. And I'm not gonna jump out, and it's not cockiness. I just think it's confidence now that Chris Greer has shown over the last couple of seasons that he's willing to go out and ensure that this team is as competitive as possible, and that matters. When you're taking the Jets are grabbing and hoping that Aaron Rodgers can give them something more, but no one knows. And I don't think since he did that whole ayahuasca deal, he hadn't been the player. He hadn't been himself. You know what I mean? And I get getting clarity and whatnot, but like you're 90% ready to retire, and you was 10% coming back at this point.
Yeah, but you got $60 million on it. You got $60 million on the table, though, bro. Like, come on,
yeah,
but Benjamin talks loudly.
But here's this thing though. If at 40, he's got more. He got less ahead of him than behind him. So if money is his motivator at this point, it's the wrong. It's the wrong motivation factor, bro.
Well, the problem is because he never took it. You made the point earlier when you're talking about Brady and Father Time. The difference between him and Brady ball game, Brady took his craft way more seriously, took his body way more seriously. That's how he was able to. This guy looks like Nick Cage out of Con Air. He doesn't look like he's, doesn't look like he's about, to play till he's 46. I don't think so. So, like Brady, when you know what it is, boys, right? When you get older, your arm gets a little weaker. You get less mobile. So what? Nutrition, health, a body, and mechanics. That's what you need to play as long as you possibly can. I mean, and he's never. And I gotta give up the first ever Finish Line $100 bomb. John says, love the show. I want to shout out my man, number 78. Watched every play you made. You're the man, Richmond. The best offensive tackle I have ever seen play. Marino was lucky to have you.
Wow, thanks, John. That's big time, bro. Appreciate the love you show me, man. The comments mean more than anything. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I appreciate that.
And John says, thanks, Reason, Mr. Ballgame and Mr. Webb. It's still early in the offseason. I think our O-line will be much better once we develop continuity. Hey, it's a good point. Gentlemen, final thoughts before we wrap up and head into day 2 of free agency tomorrow?
I guess mine is easy. I mean, I like everything they're doing. I think they're on the right path. I think at the beginning of the show, kind of like what you said, Reason, the only area now that they would address a lot of areas on defense is, the offensive line. Address that. And like you say, in the draft, possibly pick up a tight end or maybe a linebacker or something. But everything they've done is to put us in a position to win the division and actually not only win a playoff game, to actually have an opportunity to go really deep, maybe possible Super Bowl. So the question is, can we stay healthy? But as far as what they're doing right now, I mean, if you're a Dolphin fan and you're not excited, I don't know what else to tell you unless, like BallGame said, you get caught up in names versus players that's going to actually help you win. It's easy to do that and say, oh, we got this guy, all big names and stuff. That doesn't necessarily transition into a guarantee that you're going to win a lot of games. So I thought they are doing a really good job. I'm really happy. And I think a lot of the fans are happy. Like you said, if you had 1,000 Monday listening, 800, 700 tonight, you just keep being right. Don't get tired of being right. I was going to tell you. Don't do that. So if you was wrong, we wouldn't have that many on the show. So y'all keep doing your thing, and I like that little recording you got there too.
I love that movie.
Fun.
I love that movie, bro.
So other than that, come on with it, BallGame. Close it out.
I think there's always there's what to be made at times, and I think over the course of the last couple of years, the Dolphins' point is that we're not going to go head over heels and chasing what somebody else is doing. We're going to stay true to what we need, right? And when you really truly break down the success this team had last year after, bringing on a new head coach. Let me back up. I don't think people take into consideration how big of a move that is and how philosophically that changes a lot of the energy in the room when a new coach comes on board and new people are around the players after they become accustomed to other players and shift in, ideologies and things of that nature. But to have had the success we had last year, as early as we had it, he said, got birthday kicking it. Yeah. And really what it comes down to, man, is that there were small tweaks that needed to be made to this thing, not major ones that could upset the energy that this team has been able to manifest for itself. Sometimes it takes a real mindful individual that can look at that and say, I don't want to mess this thing. I don't want to tweak this too much, because if I do, then it's going to throw some other areas out of whack. And I think what they've done thus far in free agency is they brought in guys that aren't going to cause too much of a ripple, but are going to be solid contributors to what they're trying to accomplish on both sides of the ball, right? Yeah. And familiarity with the scheme is huge. That's why I think Mostert and I don't understand Gaskins, but I think that's why Mostert and Wilson were brought back. And in the biggest thing, I think what they're going to target is guys that they can bring in, plug and play, that fit the ideals of what they want position-wise, right? Even in the tight end room, I do believe they're going to draft another tight end. And I think that although the kid from Georgia, what's his name?
Darnell Washington.
Is it Darnell?
Darnell Washington, the tight end?
Darnell Washington. Yeah. I think he's a freak of nature. Yeah. I think that the Laporta kid is probably a better fit, to be honest with you. Yeah. But if they want to go big, then they'll move up to go get him. I don't have a problem with that either. I think he's a 6'7", 206 pound behemoth of a man, and he moved the way he moved. Had that around here. We haven't had that around here, and I've never seen a tight end that big in the Dolphins organization. So, they'll go. I think they'll do their due diligence to go after what they feel is needed the most, and we just have to be willing to say, you know what? I see the vision. I see the understanding of why they're doing what they're doing and just keep the faith, because to this point, Chris Greer has the utmost. I have the utmost faith in him that he's willing to do whatever is necessary to ensure that we are as competitive as any team, any of the other 31 teams in the league. And I know that there's a lot of there's always speculation about how good we can be and all these other things, but I think that we had a really good showing last year through some real serious adversity. I think the Dolphins rallied back from all of that and shocked the world this season, to be honest with you. So,
yeah,
I'm gonna stick to that. Put my $1,000 down on us to win it all.
What, a plus 3,500, I think it is, or something like that,
man.
Right now?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, it was a couple of days ago. I don't know what it is.
A couple of days. Yeah, it's probably changed a bit now, but I'm gonna do it on Friday.
Yeah.
So, and then yeah.
All right. Well, tomorrow
I'm content with where we are right now.
If anything breaks tomorrow, I'll be back and I'll be live with anything big and breaking. If not, expect me and Neil tomorrow for an episode of Fin Too Deep, where we'll recap the day and do the thing. You already know what time it is. So, I saw a tweet from a non-credible source out there saying that the Patriots are interested in Mike Gesicki. So it's not credible. Take it for what it's worth. But I know a lot of people are just in the comments talking about where he'll land. And it seems in the comments they think the place that makes the most sense for Gesicki is Green Bay. So we'll see how that all winds out, how that goes. Listen, day 2 of free agency is in what? 2 hours and 8 minutes officially at 12 a.m. So we are on our way. Let's see how they fill out the offensive line. Let's see how they continue to fill out the team. And then we get into draft season. And we appreciate everyone who donated tonight. We appreciate everyone who came through. Smash that like button on your way out. And as always, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. We'll see all y'all on the next one. Have a fantastic evening, everyone. Shout out to Alf in the comments for dealing with all those fools on Twitter, too. Appreciate you, Alf. Fins up, everyone.